Hi, this is the first of 3 screencasts used in this course to develop skills in cohort tracking. This first screencast deals with the concepts behind cohort tracking. The second screencast looks at data and an Excel spreadsheet that can be used for cohort tracking, sort of a desktop experience for working with cohort tracking. The third explores some functions, some formulas that you can use within that spreadsheet to actually populate a cohort tracking scheme. Cohort tracking is among the most powerful techniques available to administrators, senior administrators, in fact, everybody that works at the institution, to identify where students are succeeding in an institution and where students are not succeeding, and then at a high level to decompose those student experiences by their demographics to determine and answer the question which types of students are succeeding, which types of students are not succeeding. We use essentially 5 data points to look in common at institutions who are on a student success journey so that they have common definitions and common transition points so they can look and compare themselves to other institutions and look at the types of interventions behind these data points to see where the student experience can be improved. So what percent of entering students complete developmental coursework and advance to college level courses? Which groups of students enroll and successfully complete gatekeeper courses? Which students complete all of their courses with a grade of C or better? A grade of C being necessary to trigger the next level of prerequisite or the next level of courses in a series that frankly determine whether students move on or not, and which re-enroll for a second semester or a second year. And finally, which students, or what percent of entering students, earn certificates or degrees or transfer. The term entering students has some implications simply because some institutions say, well, we're going to use all students who enter. Some institutions, for instance, say, well, we're only going to consider the experience of full-time students who enter, since the full-time students are more serious about completing than part-time students. Our experience is that if you cast your net widely and use all entering students, you're able then subsequently to decompose or disaggregate rather students by other demographic characteristics, be that full-time, part-time, be that race and ethnicity, be that gender, be that low-income status, be that athletic awards did students versus non-athletic awarded students. So you can slice and dice a cohort in many different ways. How long is a cohort? Typically, a cohort is a 3-year process. It can be longer. Institutions frequently want to know right away how students are doing. And so there is nothing to prevent an institution from looking at student experience and progress at the end of the first semester, during the first semester, at the end of the first year, at the end of the second year, at the end of the third year. Typically, institutions will start with entering students and look and finish looking at them at the end of 3 years. That's fairly typical. However, there are a lot of things that happen in between, as we've seen above, that can be either student tripping points or student acceleration points, and let's talk about those just a little bit. These data come from an institution participating in a statewide success initiative. And they looked at their full-time students and their first-time, in college students rather. And that group would constitute about 100% of students who came in a given fall. In this case, it was fall 2009. Of that group, you can see that about 44% or so wound up in one or more developmental education courses. During the 3-year period that these students were tracked, 24% completed one developmental education course, which is roughly a success factor of about half of students who had entered developmental education. Of those who had completed developmental education and moved on to college level courses, 9%. This is why our college graduation rates are low. Sometimes basic skills is the long sort of path that students take, and the completion rates at the end and going on to gatekeeper courses are sort of abysmal. In fact, it looks sort of like this, which is what I would consider to be a double diamond ski lift in Colorado. Those who successfully completed all courses that they studied for, 46%, completion of any gatekeeper course, those gatekeeper courses that we've just talked about, 17%, 63% came back the first year in the spring, 21% came back the fall before, and 21% was the number of students within 3 years to attain a degree or certificate. Obviously, there are a number of places and a number of questions that such data would produce among people. And that is, if you look at the gaps that we have here, why are those gaps the way they are? What is happening here with our students along this line? What is happening here that only 21% of them are attaining degrees and certificates versus the 100% that came in 3 years later? Many questions, and we will be exploring those throughout our course. Thank you very much.